guys, Rich here at rcinformer.com. Thanks for checking out this video on the Starmax F-18. This video is going to show you how to replace the stock fan with this new metal lander fan. This is one of their dynamically balanced DPS fans. I got this from Hobby King. It was about 96 bucks. It's supposed to put out about something like 5 to 6 pounds of thrust, so it should be this plane should be over thrust to weight with this in there. I decided to change out the fan. The fan that was in it was okay, but I felt that because I did the landing gear conversion on this plane, I did a grass gear video that shows you how to put landing gear on the plane that makes the plane flyable on grass. I've been having so much success with the airplane. It flies great off of grass now. I fly it all the time. I figured it was time for a power upgrade. The nice thing is too is that the plane comes with a 100 amp speed controller, and it's been working fine for me, so there really shouldn't be any need to replace it. In fact, the amp draw should probably actually go down a little because the new metal fan is supposed to be a little bit more efficient. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start right in on this, guys. It's real easy to get to the fan. This is a pretty easy change out. This panel here is the one that houses the fan unit. Sometimes it doesn't come out quite this easy the first time you take it out because sometimes glue has gotten around the edge, so you just have to sort of work it and get it out. But anyway, it just opens up like this, guys, and comes out, and you can see the stock fan mount, stock fan in there already, just the way it is. There are a couple locations where there are screws, and you can see right here I've already removed the screws just to sort of speed the process, and I had actually put a third screw through mine. So I removed the 3 here, I removed the 3 here, and the fan will come out real nice. You just pull it out, it just comes right out. There may be a little glue holding it in place, and then you remove the 3 connectors that are right there, and I already took them out just to make the video here a little bit quicker. One thing to note here, the wood mounts that I put on there, there were a set of stock mounts that I replaced and put a good set of hardwood mounts on there, and that's what these are. If you check out rcinformer.com, there is a write-up that I put up on this airplane that's been up there for about a year now, and it goes in detail into this airplane and how to change a lot of things and improve it, and putting in new mounts is one of the things you can check out there. Anyway, let's take a look at the new fan that's going to go in there. Before installing the new fan, I thought it was a good idea to weigh both of them and see if there's any going to make any CG difference. Both of these weigh about a pound each or so, and they're about 6 to 8 inches after the CG, so if there's a big weight difference of any kind, it'll make a difference in the CG. But this is all the stock motor and fan unit from Starmax. It just unbolted, and the only difference is I had added this heat sink to it, so I made it a little bit heavier. But anyway, I got my scale here zeroed out, and we'll go ahead and turn that back on again. We'll let it zero, and then we'll go ahead and add the stock fan, and it shows 496 grams, it looks like, which is 17.45 ounces, which is 1.092 pounds, and that's the stock fan. So let's take a look at the electric one, or the new metal fan, DPS fan I'm going to put in here. And notice I put the mounting plate on it because that's going to, or the mounting straps on there, because that's going to make a difference in the weight as well. So we'll go ahead and put that on there, and we'll see what it does. Looks like 491 grams, almost an exact match, actually a little bit less even. Ounces, 17.3 ounces, and 1.082 pounds. So almost an identical weight for these guys, so there really shouldn't be any CG issue at all. For a general overview, guys, of the new fan, it's an all metal alloy fan that has 2 mounting straps, and you can rotate these around this thing anywhere you want it to go. Cooling is actually provided by this thing by actually heat dissipating through all the aluminum, and these little air channels right here. Air will actually flow into those, go into the motor, and come back up through, and then there's a tiny fan on the side here somewhere that actually blows the hot air out. So that's how it kind of circulates the air through the motor. It actually goes backwards through it and then out the bypass air. Anyway, you have 2 straps that wrap around this thing, guys, and essentially all that we're going to end up doing, we're going to have to do a little bit of foam modification of this thing, but really what's going to happen is this thing's just going to fit right down in there just like the other fan, and we're going to bolt it down in there. Now this shroud is a little bit wider okay, than the original one, a couple of millimeters wider. So we're going to have to do a little shaving in there and to get this thing to fit, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. To start off the installation of the fan, you first want to take the strap off the fan and go ahead and just press it down in here into the foam, roughly where you ought to think where you think it should go. I went ahead and took mine and I took the aft edge of the cowling here, and I lined it up with the aft edge of the foam here, and there's an edge just like this on the inside there too. I lined that up and I went ahead and pressed this whole thing down in there as far as I could get it to go. And as I did it, I kind of rotated the whole fan a little bit to try and make an impression of what's going on, or make an impression of all of these notches and ribs and things into the foam, because you're going to need to cut a little into it. Also, you can see here in the corners, let me zoom in here just a little bit. You can see that these corners are actually going to go into the wood a little bit. So you're going to take an X-Acto in this case and clear those out a little bit. I could have mounted the fan a little bit farther forward and not gone into the wood, but that might shift the CG a little farther forward. So I'm just going to do it like this. I'll cut a couple notches here and a couple notches there into the wood mounts. As I take the fan out, and I already made some markings on the inside, again you can see that this back edge here, okay, is going to line up with this back edge right along here. And the deepest part, or the deepest part, this ridge right here, made the deepest impression, okay, right here in the center. So what I did was, I took the strap and I laid the strap down in here, because the strap is going to make that wide, and I made 3 or 4 lines there to show you where we're going to have to cut. And we're going to have to actually cut into this a little bit and just sort of shave it down a little bit, and we're going to end up shaving a lot of this down just to get it to fit in there. After making the initial impressions on the foam, guys, here's a technique that I used that seemed to work real well. What I did was I took the fan, and to mark this thing, what I did is I took a little bit of sticky backed sandpaper, and I used the heavy stuff, the 80 grit sandpaper. And what I did is I fit it down into here, and I used some needle files to sand away at the wood corners that I had to do. But what I did is I used the whole fan unit as a sanding tool. So with the sandpaper there, you just rotate this a little bit back and forth, and what will happen is that all that sandpaper will cut nice notches down into the foam, and as you can see, it makes a real nice straight sanded notch. Now at the same time you're doing this, you also want to be doing the same thing to the inside, and you can see how I have a nice notch right in here where this is going to go in. And you can see I just took the whole fan assembly with the sandpaper edge there and just slowly rotate it. You can see I have this back edge right here lined up with the back edge of the foam, and I'm very slowly rotating it. Now as for the lip, I'm going to end up doing probably a little bit of sanding here to get that, very light sanding, to get that lip straightened out. But to get the lip to make a nice impression, what I found that works real well is just take a carbon wheel for your Dremel tool. Just go ahead and stick it in there and just use it as sandpaper, and then just very carefully, it'll sand really fast, so just kind of be careful, you don't have to go too deep. And that really helps get the lip dug in there. And you do the same thing with the carbon wheel down here in the bottom. But anyway, this seems to be a real good way to get this thing to sink in. So you kind of sand this down a little bit, and then you sand this side down a little bit, and then you put the fan in, and you put your cover back on top of it and you just kind of keep sanding it all down until it fits nicely down into place. The next thing I did was I added another section of sandpaper right along this edge, because that's the next deepest part. You're really not going to have to do too much sanding along this edge on the foam, because as you can see, it's kind of recessed in there. So you're going to work on both sides, both the fuselage side and on the cowling side here. And it shouldn't take too long. You're just going to kind of sand it all down and get this thing all to fit down into place. With the sandpaper completely removed from the fan, you can look down in here and you can see that we have the notch for the sort of the middle section of the fan, and you can see how that other line that we drew for the strap is just about gone, which means that the fan is just about into place where it ought to be. And same thing here, you can see that we've sanded away the notch here for the middle part, and we've sanded away more of the shroud here, and you can see that this thing really fits into place pretty nicely now. I may need to do a little more additional sanding a little bit later to get it to fit in there tight, but overall you can see that once you have this thing sanded like that, it fits nice and snug, nice and secure, and then you can go ahead and you can put the shroud or the covering on, and you can see it just about fits almost totally down in there. I don't want it to I don't want it to go all the way in there just yet, because we're still going to have straps to put in there. We're still going to tighten it, strap it down, and possibly the straps tightening it down will push the fan in there a little further. So I'm going to save a little bit for later, and if I need to do a little sanding to make it fit a little better now. The next thing that we got to do really is to get the strap clearance in there, because the strap is actually going to go around this notch here, and you see, I'll go ahead and fit it on there. See, the strap's actually going to fit around that notch, so you can see that depth is going to be, or instead of just having this thin cut in the foam, you're actually going to have a much thicker one. So we're going to have to actually line this up with here, and sand the sandpaper that's on the side of that notch as well. Now, using the straps as a guide, you're going to line up the center channel with the channel that you cut in the foam, and you're going to go ahead and put some marks on there so you know how far roughly that you're going to want to cut into the foam. You're going to do the same thing with the bottom section here, and you can see I lined it up there, made a couple of marks again, and went ahead and removed the strap. And you can see the areas now where you have to sand. What I did was I took something, because I can't rotate this strap in there because it's got these tabs on it. So you really find anything you want. I found this. This is for electrical tape. That's an electrical tape bin storage thing. But anyway, I just put some sandpaper around that edge, and I'll go ahead and put it in there, and I'll sand those parts down. Same thing with this. I'll just take this thing and kind of just keep sanding it down. And then you can keep test fitting to make sure that you have enough clearance for your strap to go in there. Once you have all the foam removed for your strap clearance, both on your cowling or your cover and inside the airplane, you can go ahead and test fit everything. Test fit the straps, make sure everything fits into place. You're also going to need to, when you test fit it on here, you're going to need to cut away a little bit of foam on this side and on this side to make room for the extra large straps. You can see there where I actually cut that away so it all fits into place. Then you can go ahead and you can screw your fan down into place. Just drill a few holes in there and use some self-tapping screws to mount them. Here's a couple tools that I found really useful in sanding these things down, guys, to make everything fit. I took a couple pieces of PVC pipe, and I put a couple of different grits of sandpaper on here and just wrapped them around. And what you can do is to sand down some of these inside intakes to make everything match up. You can use these to get in there because they're curved, and will let you keep a nice curved surface on this whole thing. When you're done with all the curved surfaces, both on the outside hatch and on the inside, you're ready to go ahead and mount the fan. Here's a look at the fully installed fan with all the screws secured down in, and you can pretty much just about, actually you can pick up the airplane by actually holding the fan. So it's in there pretty tight, guys. The next thing you're going to want to do is take your top cover and go ahead and put it in place, and wiggle it around to get it on there. And if it doesn't seat all the way down here, now that you have it finally installed, here's where you're going to make any additional trim changes to it. So, and if it doesn't go all the way down, it's kind of hard to get off here. If it doesn't go all the way down and you press it in there, a lot of times you'll see little indentations right here where the screws go, and you may need to just file a little more down here, a little more here. Who knows where you need to file, but you want to try and locate what parts are keeping it from going all the way down. The biggest parts I found, again, were right here on both of these sides. A few considerations you're going to want to make, guys, before you do the final install of this is where are the wires in the back going to go. There's really not a great place for them. They're literally just going to sort of lay back there somewhere, but you want to try and distribute the load or the wires evenly so it's not blocking airflow out of one side in particular. Let's take a look at the back of the airplane. You can see what I'm talking about. Taking a look at the back of the airplane, guys, you can see where the wires lie inside here. You can try and distribute them as equally as you can. I couldn't make that little dorsal fin right there go straight up or straight down just because of the way the wire connectors were put on there without lengthening or shrinking the wires. But I find it's really hard to do anything with those wires because they have those big connectors on them, and if you make them shorter, you're not going to be able to get the fan in there, and if you make them longer, then you just have more wire to deal with. So, but anyway, this seems to be about the best way I could figure out to get them in there. So, you know, you may have a little bit of a flow obstructed on this side, and you may have a little bit of flow obstructed on this side, you know, between the wires and the dorsal fin on this side. But anyway, it seems like that's probably about the best way to get it in there without doing anything real complicated. Okay, folks, this concludes this video on installing a metal fan in the Starmax F-18. I think it's definitely the way to go. It's a vast improvement over the plastic fan that is included with the airplane. The nicest thing about it, you don't need to worry about the fan, you know, breaking, cracking, or coming apart in flight. You have a nice solid metal cowl that dissipates the heat better. The fan overall puts out a bit more thrust than the stock fan. And it sounds a whole lot nicer. As you can tell from the video, it sounds more like a jet than an electric airplane. And for the $100, or just under $100 for putting the metal fan in there, it's definitely a real cost-effective and a real worthwhile upgrade. Anyway, guys, appreciate you checking out this video. Check out all the other videos on the Starmax F-18 that are out there, and the ones that I'm just getting ready to put out with many upgrades for this airplane. Once again, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.